Let's go ahead and practice how to write an equation of a line that goes through 2 points, because 2 points determine a line. If you have 1 point, you could draw lines in any direction that go through that point. But as soon as you have 2 points, now there's only one particular direction that your line can go. So to write the equation of a line, we're going to need to think about which one of these forms would make the most sense. And we're actually going to do both forms. But since we're not given a y-intercept here, we're actually going to try the point-slope form first. And so the first thing I'm going to do with that is find a slope. So remember, every point has an x and a y value. So let's call the first point x1, y1, and the second point x2, y2. Let's go ahead and use that slope formula to calculate the slope. So we're going to go ahead and do the slope. Remember, slope, you subtract the two y values, second y value minus the first y value. Oops. So 25 minus negative 75, that's the change in y. And then subtract the two x values for the run. So second x value minus the first x value. All right, let's simplify that. So 25 minus negative 75, when you minus a negative, right here, that actually turns to a plus, a positive. All right, so we're going to say 25 minus negative 75 is actually positive 100. It's the same as 25 plus positive 75. Negative 5 minus 20 is negative 25. And if we take 100 divided by negative 25, that comes out to a nice slope of negative 4. So the slope is negative 4. Next thing is we need a point. If we're writing the point slope form, we need to choose a point that is on a line. You actually have 2 points here that we could choose from, and they'll both end up being correct. But I'm going to choose the point 20, negative 75, just because it's the first point that we have there. So I'm going to choose that first. And then we're going to go ahead and write the equation. We're going to write the equation in point-slope form. And then let's see if we can change that point-slope form equation after we have it into the slope-intercept form. All right, so the point-slope form requires 3 pieces of information. The point-slope form needs a point, which we have here. That's our x1 and y1. And we have our slope, which we have here, which is our m. So if we think back to our point-slope form on the previous page here, those are the pieces of information that we're going to need, the point and the slope. So let's go ahead and write that in. So we have y minus the y value from the point, which in this case is negative 75, equals m, which is our slope, so we're going to put that negative 4, times x minus the x value for our point. So I'm going to color code that here. So the x value for our point is 20. Awesome. So that is our point-slope form equation. Now we can simplify that just a little bit, make it look just a little bit nicer by taking the y minus negative 75. That's really the same thing as y plus 75. So let's just clean that up just a little bit, and then let's just keep the rest of it like it is. So that right there is the point-slope form. So you have now written the equation of a line that passes through those 2 points. But what if you want the slope-intercept form, the y equals mx plus b form? Well, let's go ahead and do that. We can do a little bit of algebra here, a little bit of simplifying to get it into the slope-intercept form. And so the first thing we're going to do is maybe just do a little distributive property here. Take that negative 4 and multiply it through to both parts of the parentheses. So that's going to give us y plus 75 equals negative 4x. There's the bell. plus 80. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 20 is positive 80. Okay, and then we're going to get y by itself. We're going to solve this for y. So I'm just going to undo that adding of 75 and subtract it from both sides. So now we have y by itself. And let's combine like terms over on the other side. 80 minus 75 is 5. So now I have, notice that my slope is still negative 4, just like it was back up here. Slope was still negative 4. But now notice I have my y-intercept that I can find out is positive 5. All right, so there's my slope-intercept form. Now it'd be great if you guys could try the one over on the right side here. So if you want to pause the video and try it on your own here first, that would be awesome. So go ahead and pause now. And then I will go ahead and work it through and you can check your answers. All right. So let's go ahead and do our slope again. So slope requires us to think about the 2 points, the change in y over change in x. So slope formula means I take my second y value minus my first y value, so negative 19 minus negative 1. And then the second x value minus the first x value, which would be negative 8 minus 4. Simplifying that now, negative 19 minus negative 1, remember, that really is the same thing as negative 19 plus positive 1. Negative 19 plus 1 is negative 18. Careful with that. Negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12. Be careful with that. If you divide two negatives, you get a positive. So this is the same thing as positive 1.5, or if you reduce the fraction, positive 3/2, positive 3 over 2. Either way would be fine for writing the slope. Okay? And then we're going to take one of the points that is on the line. All right, so let's just say we take our first point. You could choose either one of the 2 points, but I'm going to take my first point. And now I'm going to write that point slope form. Equation. So that gives me, I'm going to end up writing pretty small when I zoom in, isn't it? All right, so point slope form equation will end up being y minus the y value for my points. So remember, this is x1, y1, and then remember our slope is m. So the y value for our point was negative 1. Equals the slope, 1.5 is our slope, times x minus the x value for our point, which was 4. All right, so there's our point slope form equation. You could leave it like that. Once again, though, I'm going to just clean this up a little bit, because when you subtract a negative, that really creates a positive. So this is really the same thing as y plus 1 is equal to 1.5. times x minus 4. So that's really the cleaned up version of the point slope form equation. And just like we did before, let's go ahead and transform that into slope intercept form. That's the y equals mx plus b. So we can see what that y-intercept is. So to do that, let's start off by just doing a little distributive property up here. So that gives us y plus 1 is equal. Okay, so 1.5 times x is 1.5x. 1.5 times negative 4. So 1.5 times negative 4 would be negative 6. Let's just do a quick little solving for y here. All right. So let's subtract 1 from both sides. And that gets y by itself, so we solved for y. 1.5x minus 7. negative 6 minus 1. So now we have our slope-intercept form. Again, 1.5. Notice that stayed as the slope. So our slope back up here was 1.5. That hasn't changed. But what we now know is we now know our y-intercept value is negative 7, which we didn't know before. At least we couldn't see that very clearly. So now we have the slope-intercept form. So now we have the equation written in two different forms, the point-slope form and the slope-intercept form.